You've spent years defending your excuses like they're sacred. But here's the shocking truth. Your beliefs aren't facts. They're prison bars you welded together in your own mind. Right now, you might feel a prick of discomfort, maybe a slight anger, but that reaction is exactly why this topic matters. If you've ever said, "I don't have the talent," "I can't risk embarrassing myself," or "I'm too old to change," you've built a fortress around your perceived flaws. Today, I invite you to see how flimsy those walls really are. Because here's the paradox. The more you argue for your limitations, the more they solidify. Our brains cling to the stories we tell, cycling through fear and self-doubt, as though it keeps us safe. But if you never challenge those narratives, you'll stay chained in an imaginary cell. So, let's disrupt the illusion. Let's unravel why we so fiercely protect the very lies that weigh us down. Prepare to experience a mental jolt that snaps you out of complacency. You'll discover 7 unapologetic steps that not only break your excuses, but replace them with something far more liberating. By the end, you'll see how to dismantle the mental cage you thought was your reality. Keep watching if you dare, because what you learn next might just incinerate the beliefs you've spent your life defending. Believe me, once you see the cracks, you'll never want to slip back into that claustrophobic cell. Let's probe deeper into the mystery of why we cling so stubbornly to our limiting beliefs. On the surface, it feels safer to recite our old excuses. "I'm not wired for success," "I can't handle rejection," or "I'm simply too busy." But beneath those rationalizations lies a silent deception. Your brain wants predictability, even if it means staying stuck. At this point, think of it as a deeply embedded mental program that equates comfort with survival. Every time you argue for your own limitations, you're actually reassuring that program, whispering, "Don't worry, nothing will change, we're safe." However, this sense of security comes at a steep cost. You never truly stretch your boundaries or explore the raw potential simmering within. Neurologically speaking, confirmation bias locks onto any scrap of evidence that supports your pre-existing insecurities. If you believe you can't learn new skills, every minor misstep or critique becomes proof of your incompetence. Meanwhile, the moments of brilliance, when you ace a project or outshine your doubts, get conveniently minimized. Why are we so invested in this one-sided version of events? Because a shaky identity, one that's uncertain if greatness is possible, fears the unknown more than it fears limitation. That's the sinister trick. Illusions of safety over authentic growth. Ask yourself, which is really more terrifying? Trying and failing, or never discovering what you could become? The space between those two questions is the spark of transformation. Stay alert. Your mind's favorite illusions are often the ones least questioned. Arguing for your limitations is like handing your dreams a shovel and commanding them to bury you deeper. It's a dramatic visual, but it captures the vicious cycle perfectly. Every time you protest, "I'm not cut out for this," you're effectively instructing your aspirations to dig your mental grave a few inches deeper. In this segment, I want to jolt you out of that pattern. Because if your beliefs are prisons, then these repetitive excuses are the warden, constantly patrolling your subconscious and keeping you locked down. Now here's the real mindbender. Many of these limitations masquerade as virtues. Caution is painted as wisdom, humility as realism, and self-censorship as politeness. But a pattern interrupt demands we see these illusions for what they truly are. Security blankets that keep us from the uncertain territory of growth. Maybe you think you're just being sensible by not taking that big career leap. In reality, you might be strangling your potential, trading risk for a near guarantee of mediocrity. Let's pause the autopilot. Instead of reflexively concluding, "I can't," ask, "What if I could?" In that simple shift, you create a glitch in your mental matrix. The more you do it, the more you disrupt the comfortable patterns that lead nowhere. Break the script of limitations. Dare to confront that unsettling rush of possibility, because on the other side of that uncertainty, you might just find your true power. Trust me, disrupt. At the core of this transformation is an emotional reorientation. You must feel your own potential before logic can fully register it. We often rely on cold analysis to assess what's possible, measuring ourselves against spreadsheets of achievements and failures. But your heart houses a reservoir of courage that can override the most stubborn data points. When you connect to that bold, intuitive spark, you sync your energy with something bigger than fear or reason. It's like aligning yourself with a magnetic current that propels you toward growth. The trick is to tap into that feeling intentionally. Maybe you recall a moment when you overcame what felt impossible. Landing that dream internship, acing a crucial exam, or even confronting a personal crisis and emerging stronger. That sensation, that electric surge, is proof you're built for more than you admit. Let that emotional anchor become a guiding force. Instead of drowning in analysis, tune into a memory of triumph. This tangible memory unlocks a visceral conviction that "I can" is more than just words. It's worth noting that this approach doesn't ignore facts. It supplements them with the raw, human power of belief. Feel your heart pounding when you envision your next breakthrough, and let that emotion rewrite your internal dialogue. You might be surprised how quickly your mind bends toward possibility when your spirit sets the tone. Embrace this emotional voltage and watch it break every barrier you've mistakenly accepted. Now let's accelerate with the first 3 steps of this unstoppable momentum shift. Pon-shes, pon-zes. Pon-zes, pon-zeth. Just repeated. Step 1. Identify the lie. Grab a pen and write down every belief that begins with "I can't" or "I'll never." Face them on paper until the words sting your eyes. The key is to see your illusions spelled out. Choose the one that hurts the most. That's your prime target. Realize these statements aren't truths. They're mental malware, lines of code that corrupt your potential. Step 2. Weaponize evidence. Your brain has been collecting proof of your shortcomings for years. Time to flip the script. If you believe you're bad at relationships, list 3 times you built meaningful connections. If you think, "I can't speak in public," recall moments you successfully expressed yourself, even in small groups. By focusing on actual evidence, you corner your limiting belief and expose it for the fraud it is. Step 3. Rewrite the code. Carefully transform your old statements into skill-based affirmations. "I'm hopeless with money" becomes "I'm learning to manage my finances wisely." Words matter. Each time you recite this new statement, you reinforce a mental pathway that says, "Growth is possible." This trifecta, identifying the lie, challenging it with proof, and rewriting it, forms the pivot from stagnation to forward thrust. Embrace these steps and watch the momentum take root in your daily life. Don't underestimate the power of small shifts. They often spark the biggest internal revolutions imaginable. Start tomorrow. Now let's ignite the next 3 steps. Step 4. Visualize the villain. Our minds process imagery more powerfully than abstract ideas, so turn your limiting belief into a cartoon character, complete with a ridiculous name like Loser Larry. Give it a whiny voice and a silly costume. The goal is to diminish its authority by showcasing how absurd it truly is. The moment it whispers, "You'll fail again," you can laugh, identify its voice, and intentionally reject that narrative. Step 5. Affirmations with teeth. Vague statements like, "I am enough," can lose their impact over time. Instead, choose affirmations that hit like a punch. "I outwork my doubts," or "Every challenge cowers before my persistence." These phrases don't just placate your mind, they actively rewire it for fierce determination. Speak them daily. Let them reverberate in your subconscious until negativity no longer has a comfortable throne in your head. Finally, Step 6. Action over analysis. Overthinking can be a sophisticated form of procrastination. If your old self avoids confrontation, have that difficult conversation tomorrow. If your past identity hates risk, apply for that job that seems just out of reach. Fear never shrinks through endless rumination. It shrinks when you act in spite of it. Taking one bold step is worth more than 1,000 carefully crafted excuses. Every action you take renders your limiting belief more and more obsolete. Decisions made under courage spark a chain reaction of unstoppable progress. Brace yourself for Step 7. Detonate the old script. This is where you symbolically destroy the old narrative you've been living in. Write down every debilitating belief, every sneer of "not possible" or "too risky" on a piece of paper. Then, safely burn it, shred it, or tear it to confetti. The physical act of annihilating that list is a powerful gesture to your subconscious, signifying that these lies no longer define you. As the paper turns to ashes or scraps, imagine your former limitations dissolving. Visualize that smoke carrying away the stale arguments you once clung to, leaving space for possibility to flood in. Sometimes, you need a visceral moment to drive home your new reality. This is that moment. It's a turning point, a symbolic line in the sand between who you've been and who you choose to become next. I challenge you right now. Pick one belief that's been eating at you. Maybe the idea that you'll always be stuck in the same job, or the notion that you lack creativity. Write it down, destroy that piece of paper, and in the comments, type "detonate." Offer one line about what you're torching this week. Let's create a wave of transformation across this community, because if your old self is the anchor, your new self is the sail. The flame you spark here can guide you to places your doubts never wanted you to go. Break free now and never regress. Every limitation you once embraced can now be replaced by an audacious new vision. You've seen the logic, felt the emotional spark, and challenged your own beliefs. So ask yourself, why stop here? Why retreat back into a smaller version of yourself when you've already ignited the fuse of real change? Let this be the moment where you refuse to bargain with fear, choosing instead to bet on your infinite capacity to adapt, learn, and thrive. But remember, transformation thrives in community. If this video has struck a chord, share it with someone who's stuck defending their own limitations. You never know. Your act of sharing might be the catalyst that cracks open their next major breakthrough. Sometimes, the smallest nudge sets off a roaring avalanche of possibility. Most importantly, I invite you to keep this conversation alive. Comment below with your biggest takeaway, or pose the question that's nagging at your soul. Do you dare to find out who you become when you unchain your mind? That's the real experiment. Stepping outside the comfort of your old identity and expanding into your unclaimed potential. If you're ready to break every barrier, press the subscribe button right now. Leave a thumbs up if this resonated, and set your notifications so you don't miss the deeper mysteries ahead. Remember, the world doesn't need your excuses, it needs your audacity. So, harness that new momentum, keep torching the lies, and let your future self roar with gratitude for what you chose to become today. Keep pushing forward, keep questioning, and watch mediocrity crumble completely.